It was a chilly autumn evening when my friends and I decided to dabble in the mysterious world of the Ouija board. The leaves outside rustled in the wind, casting eerie shadows across the dimly lit room. We had gathered at Sarah's old Victorian house, a place that had always seemed a bit spooky even in the brightest of days. The Ouija board sat in the center of a wooden table, illuminated only by a single flickering candle. Sarah, a true believer in the paranormal, had inherited it from her grandmother, who had warned her about its power. But we were young and curious, eager to connect with the other side. As the planchette rested on the board, our fingers barely touching its surface, we began with trepidation. "Is there anyone here with us?" I asked, trying to sound confident despite the anxiety gnawing at my gut. At first, nothing happened. The room was so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. Then, ever so slowly, the planchette moved. It spelled out the letters M and E. My heart raced as I looked at my friends, thinking one of them was playing a prank. "It's not me!" Sarah exclaimed, her eyes wide with fear. The planchette continued to move, spelling out H and E, and then finally L and P. "Help?" I stammered, my voice trembling. "What do you need help with?" The planchette moved again, this time spelling T and H and E and M. My friends and I exchanged bewildered glances. "Them?" I repeated, trying to make sense of it. Just then, the room grew colder, and an eerie, unnatural wind swept through the room. The candle flickered wildly, casting bizarre and distorted shadows on the walls. The planchette, still under our trembling fingers, began to move with a newfound urgency, spelling out G and E and T and O and U and T. It was spelling "get out." Panic set in. We hastily removed our hands from the planchette, but it continued to move on its own, spelling G and E and T and O and U and T over and over again. The room felt charged with malevolent energy, and we could hear whispers, faint and sinister, filling the air. In a frenzy, we pushed our chairs back and bolted for the door, leaving the Ouija board and planchette behind. The moment we stepped outside, the whispers stopped, and the coldness lifted. But our hearts still pounded, and our faces were pale as we stood in the safety of the night. That night was etched into our memories as a harrowing encounter with the unknown. We never returned to Sarah's Victorian house, and we swore off the Ouija board forever. The unsettling messages it spelled out haunted us, and we couldn't shake the feeling that we had inadvertently invited something malevolent into our lives. From that day forward, we respected the boundaries between the living and the dead, realizing that some doors are better left unopened. The Ouija board had given us a terrifying glimpse into a world beyond our understanding, and it was a glimpse we would never forget.
The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows across the dimly lit room as we gathered around the ancient Ouija board. My friends and I had always been drawn to the supernatural, and tonight, on a dare, we had decided to contact the other side. As we placed our hands on the planchette, the air grew heavy with anticipation. "Is there anyone here with us?" I asked, my voice quivering. The planchette remained still for what felt like an eternity. Just as we were about to give up, it began to move slowly, spelling out HELLO. A collective gasp escaped our lips as we realized we were not alone. Goosebumps prickled my skin as the planchette continued to glide across the board, spelling out words with chilling precision. The spirit claimed to be a young girl named Emily, who had died tragically in a fire over a century ago. Her presence was both unsettling and oddly comforting, like the flicker of a ghostly candle in the darkness. We asked Emily questions about the afterlife, about the secrets of the universe, and about the mysteries of death. She answered with an otherworldly wisdom that sent shivers down our spines. It was intoxicating, and we couldn't tear ourselves away from the board. Hours passed, and the room grew colder as our connection with Emily deepened. It felt as if we were on the brink of discovering something profound, but Then, the atmosphere changed. The room grew even colder, and a palpable sense of malevolence washed over us. The planchette moved faster, and with more force, spelling out Satan. Panic seized my heart as I realized we had made a grave mistake. The entity we had contacted was not the innocent spirit of a young girl, but something far more sinister. We tried to say goodbye, to close the session, but the planchette wouldn't move. It continued to spell out dark and threatening messages. We were trapped, held hostage by a malevolent force. Just as despair settled over us, a sudden gust of wind extinguished the candle. Darkness enveloped the room, and in the blackness I heard a sinister, guttural laugh. It echoed all around us, sending chills through our very souls. But then, suddenly as it had all begun, the room fell silent. The planchette was still, the oppressive presence gone. We scrambled to turn on the lights, our faces pale with fear. As we gathered ourselves, one of my friends noticed a small, folded piece of paper on the board. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside was a message written in a chilling, crooked script. "You escaped this time, but I'll be waiting." The room grew colder once more, and we knew that our encounter with the Ouija board had opened a door we could never fully close. The true nature of the entity we had contacted remained a mystery. One thing was certain. It was a darkness beyond our understanding, and it hungered for something far more sinister than we could have ever imagined.
The night was dark and stormy, the kind of night where you can feel the weight of the unknown pressing against your chest. My friends and I sat huddled in a circle around the Ouija board, the planchette resting lightly on the wooden surface. We were curious, perhaps foolishly so, drawn to the idea of contacting the spirits that supposedly lingered on the other side. The room was heavy with tension as we asked the board if there was anyone there. At first, there was only silence. But then ever so slowly, the planchette began to move, spelling out YES. My heart pounded as a mixture of excitement and fear coursed through my veins. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice quivering. The planchette glided to the letters, spelling out a name, MALICE. My friends exchanged nervous glances, but we decided to press on, thinking it was just a spooky coincidence. We asked Malice questions about the afterlife, about the spirit world, and about the mysteries of the beyond. But with every answer, a sense of dread settled in the pit of my stomach. It was as though the atmosphere in the room grew colder with each passing moment. As the night wore on, the entity's responses grew increasingly malevolent. It began to taunt us, revealing dark secrets from our own lives that no one else could have known. Panic gripped us as we realized we were no longer in control of the session. The planchette moved with a mind of its own, spelling out horrifying threats and promises of harm. We tried desperately to say goodbye, to end the connection, but the planchette wouldn't budge. It felt as though the room itself was closing in on us, suffocating us with its malevolence. The candles flickered, casting eerie, dancing shadows on the walls. And then it happened. The room went pitch black, and an icy hand clamped down on my wrist, sending a shock of paralyzing fear through my body. I screamed, and my friends screamed too, their voices filled with terror. When the lights flickered back on, I found myself alone in the room. My friends had vanished without a trace. The Ouija board, its planchette still in place, taunted me from the table. It spelled out a final chilling message. "You are mine now." I tried to flee, to escape the room, but the door was locked from the inside, and the windows were sealed shut. The walls seemed to close in, and the air grew thick with a malevolent presence. I was trapped with the entity called Malice, with no way out. As the hours turned into days, I could hear whispers in the darkness, taunts and threats that never ceased. I knew I was no longer in control of my own fate, that I had awakened something unspeakable and evil. And now I am forever bound to that room, my screams unheard, my pleas unanswered. My encounter with the Ouija board had unleashed a terror beyond comprehension, and I can only pray that someday someone will find a way to break the curse and free me from this living nightmare.